Hello learners, welcome to another session of geography. Today we're going to look at what's in and what's out. I know what comes to your mind first, smartphones, braids as being in. I know braids also is in geography, isn't it? Braided streams. So braids is definitely in. But what we're going to look at today is not the fashion, but we're going to look at what's in and out of the geography curriculum for CAPS. Okay, let's get going. Are you ready? Right. Let's look at the key concepts that we're going to discuss today. Okay, we're actually going to look at the key concepts of this session. And here we were going to look at comparing the CAPS curriculum with the previous NCS curriculum. And we're going to focus on which sections have been removed from the curriculum, and there's a significant amount, and which sections have been added to the curriculum. All right? We're also going to look at the assessment and how the change in the mark allocation for papers 1 have been for different questions. We're also going to discuss a few questions to give you some insight about the changes and how the questions will be asked. They are similar to the CAPS curriculum and the exemplar you received, not identical. All right, and just one thing, learners, I just want to mention to you, I know many people are saying, but we just got one exemplar. I'm going to show you that not much has changed. There's a bit more specific detail, a few add-ons, and few sections have been left out. And also with the sections that have been left out, it's not necessary that you actually don't try and answer them. It will assist you with other sections as such. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. I'm sure you know this by now, but just to go over it and show you some of the changes in the main terminology or the sections. Previously it was climate and weather for the first one. We still have it as climate and weather. And now the difference is that in the previous papers it was 100 marks and now it's 75 marks. In fact, the 75 marks work for all your questions. The next section was known as fluvial processes and landforms. Now, in the current NCS CAPS document, it's known as geomorphology. Same, changed to 75. The next section, as in the previous NCS curriculum, it was people and places, rural and urban settlements. All we did was take out people and places and just keep it at rural settlement. Once again, 75 marks. The last section was people and their needs. All right, now we've got economic geography. Now I'm putting these 75 marks, it's not 75 marks for each question, but I'll go through it at a later stage. Total, the new total is 225 marks compared to 300. Learners, I just want to emphasize something. I know some learners jump for joy. Our friends wrote 300 paper mark last year, and now we've got a 225. It's much more easier. Do not be fooled. Because as I'm emphasizing here, and I'm writing it in big, do not be fooled into believing the new paper is shorter than the old, because the mark allocation has been adjusted and it may take you the same time to answer the questions. Right, let's get going with the curriculum itself. Now, the first section, climate and weather. Learners, I want to mention something and I'll be showing you a few things. These sections, or many sections, have been removed, all right? But it doesn't mean you leave it out, because it gives you an understanding of another section. So do try and answer it to get a better understanding. But they're definitely not going to be tested on. For instance, let's look at global pressure belts. That was in the old curriculum. Global pressure belts, a relationship between pressure, wind, moisture, Coriolis force, geostrophic winds. All of this have been removed. You have now done it, and if you recollect, in grade 11. But it does give you an understanding of movement from high pressure to low pressure, etc. It does assist you with that. Primary circulation, the movement of air between the equator and the poles, horizontal and vertical air movements, effects of land and water masses, circulation models like the planetary wind model and the tricellular model, which is important. You know, your basis to climate and weather is understanding your movement between high and low pressure. If you can understand that, you will understand urban climates. You'll understand the movements of your low pressure systems, high pressure systems following the ITCZ. So do revise over this. But in terms of testing, it is out. Quite a few chunks here, but doesn't mean you don't revise over it. All right? The next one, the secondary circulation, which talks about the tropical easterly belt, the westerly wind belt, and the polar easterly belt. It's saying removed. But I want to ask you something, because the next section, learners, all right, I know you won't be able to answer me back, but the next section dealing with mid-latitudes, obviously your understanding of the westerly wind belt will help you understand this. For instance, we talk about the westerly, that's where the mid-latitudes happen. The recurving of the westerly winds, which brings about the mid-latitude. The recurving of the easterlies brings about your tropical cyclone. So, although it's not there, it's essential that you revise these sections. Really, I'm putting it here, revise them in order to get a better understanding of your other sections. So, but for curriculum purposes, the pressure belts are gone. But please, you revise them. All right? In the past, we had the westerly wind belt and the mid-latitude cyclone. We have it down here also in the new CAPS curriculum. Just that the new CAPS curriculum has got a bit more specific in terms of its information, but all these factors are there, and also it added on to the content of mid-latitude cyclones. In the past, we looked at it where it's occurring in South Africa, but we're going into more detail. I know many educators have covered this in the past, so it's nothing new to them, but you go into a little more detail about the areas where mid-latitude cyclones occur. We did not discuss this conditions necessary for the formation of mid-latitude cyclones, but now it's a must. Although I know teachers would have covered this before, but now it's a must and can be tested on. The old curriculum did not mention this. A big emphasis, learners, is on synoptic map, satellite images, you understand, interpreting of and have been integrated with mid-latitudes, tropical cyclones, subtropical anticyclones. It's also an integration of the sections, how they relate. All right, we can have all this on one synoptic map, and you must be able to interpret it. So it's not learning in compartments, and in the past maybe you got away to a certain extent. But it's integrating your information and seeing the whole section as a one sort of big section, and how the different concepts are related. So it can all come out on one synoptic map. So learning to apply and interpret is going to make a big difference towards you scoring a good mark at the end of the year. Right. Same with tropical cyclones. All the things from the formation, all right, to the movement, associated identification of synoptic maps, all right, general characteristics, the damages caused, the management strategies, all is in this section, all right? All is in this section, where you'll have to look at the different things, the way you did it in the past, just that you're going to get more case studies that is going to be tested on. You understand? Specific case studies, not just articles, and be ready for that. And I know all books, You understand? I'm sure your teachers will be loading you with case studies also that you can do. All right? But you can refer to your text and whatever that you're using and do the case studies from there. I know I tell my learners, look at the case study, do it, so it gives you a better understanding. All right? Let's go on to the next section, tertiary circulation. All right? Now, it says removed. Okay? But be careful now, learners. We're removing land and sea breezes, monsoons, and foreign winds, which have been removed to grade 11. But anabatic and katabatic, when we come across valley winds or valley climates, we will see that this section is under there. So don't just put a big cross around this section. Remember, this one is there. Okay? These ones have been removed. Anabatic and katabatic is there. Anticyclones, it was known as local climates in the past. All right? And under that we had anticyclones. It's the same thing down here. Okay? And you remember, learners, I told you that the sort of the global patterns, etc., have been removed. But your understanding of the movement north and south of the high pressure cells, etc., will also help you when you look at the ITCZ. Because when ITCZ moves north, the high pressure systems move north. And when you're doing your synoptic interpretation, or you have done it already, you need to know about that movement. But that section which has been excluded gives you a better understanding. Okay? So all your traveling disturbances, development of your moisture fronts, all that was in the old curriculum is all there in the new curriculum. Nothing has changed. All right? It's all coming in. Okay? Maybe a little emphasis on the Cape Doctor, etc., is not as emphasized here. But remember, when you're studying your cold fronts, you're talking about your strong winds, etc., which is related to this thing, to the Cape Doctor. You understand? Which brings in these winds, which disperses pollution, etc. So your analysis of the cold front coming in during your mid-latitude cyclones, etc., you understand, will help you get an understanding of this section. Okay, then your valley climates, which includes all the sections of radiation fog, and also your thermal belts, your inversions, all is found in here, in the new curriculum. Of course, remember, I emphasize the anabatic and the katabatic winds that are there. All right? With urban climates, you'll notice in your last curriculum we spoke about city climates and urban heat islands. It gives you a bit more information. It makes it more clearer to understand. It actually tells you here the difference between rural and urban climate when you compare it to the valley climates there. It talks about the causes and effects, concept of pollution, strategies to reduce the effect. So although you've done it in the old curriculum, it didn't state it clearly. Here it's stated in more detail. Climate hazards, nice to go over it because it gives you an understanding. You understand? Because sometimes your heat islands can be heating, and maybe some of the aspects of solutions to global warming can help you there. But this section has been removed. Okay? So that's out. It's no more in the new CAPS curriculum. Let's look at a sample question dealing with climate and weather. All right? I've chosen urban heat island. I've been a bit naughty because I've chosen an area in Singapore, but I tended to like this diagram. All right? Local examples would be better. All right? Let's interpret the diagram same as we interpret any other diagram. It shows you the different land uses from the CBD going out to the turf club where there's lots of vegetation. I see our vegetation has turned a bit purple there, but it's actually vegetation. All right, it makes it more fascinating when you look at it. All right, so it shows you temperatures decreasing as you move away from the city center. You would have studied that already. It's dealing with all the different activities in the city, the concrete, steel, and tar that make the city warmer. Similar to your past. Let's look at the differences now. All right? The first term, define the term heat island. In your past paper, you had 2 marks for the definition. Learners, please note, you are now getting 1 mark for the definition. Now, don't assume a vague explanation is going to give you 1 mark. You still have to define, your definition has to be full and fully explained, not vague. Vague still gives you a 0. So that's a difference, obviously. Okay, and we look at the answer, an urban area with a higher temperature surrounded by a rural area with a lower temperature. A full definition. You can't write an area with a higher temperature surrounded by an area with a lower temperature, because we're emphasizing on the word urban heat island. All right, let's look at 1.2. Okay, state the land use zone with the highest temperature. Now, I can look at it here very clearly, as in the past. If I look at this area, I can see clearly the CBD, because there's my temperature graph. And I see the CBD having the highest temperature. All right? So, when I look at my answer, it's the CBD. Now, in the past, this was 2 marks for giving just 1 word. Now, the answer is worth 1 mark. All right? Let's look at the next question. Explain 3 reasons for the difference in the temperature. All right? Explain 3 reasons for the difference in temperature between this land use zone, all right, and that's the answer to question 121, and the turf club. Now the word explain changes the mark allocation. As in the past, when you had to explain, you got 3 times 2 equals 6. In the new curriculum, it's also 3 times 2 equals 6, because you're giving a little more. And this is good, learners, because where you're giving a little more of an answer, you understand you're getting more marks. Where you're stating, you're getting a single mark. All right? You're getting your worth in marks. So, again, similar. Let's look at it. Okay? Discussing the 3. Okay? CBD has less vegetation. All right? CBD has more concrete, steel, and tar, things that you studied already. You know the CBD, so concrete, steel, and tar captures the heat. Vegetation, on the other hand, if there's less vegetation, less heat is absorbed for photosynthesis. Multiple reflections in the CBD, where the heat gets caught between the buildings. Activities in the CBD generate heat. Now, I'm giving you the answers like this because this is the way you will see the answers in the memo. But learners, you need to be careful. This memo is for the markers. You need to give a little more detail. All right, let's take the first one. Okay, so we're looking at the explanation of the CBD, and you need to give more answers on this. CBD has less vegetation, is, as I mentioned just now, it's the examiner's explanation and marking memo. You understand? Which the markers will use. You have to give more. Like, for instance, the CBD has less vegetation, therefore less heat is absorbed for photosynthesis. City is warmer. Can you see it? CBD has more concrete, steel, and tar, therefore the steel and tar absorbs more heat, making it warmer. Multiple reflections in the CBD. We could go further by stating that heat gets trapped between the tall buildings, making it warmer. Can you see it? Activities in the CBD generate more heat. Example, there are more cars, more air conditioners. You understand? More factories, which make the city warmer. So learners, not just writing a point, You understand? As you see it in the memos. Don't be sort of confused by the memos, all right, or misled by the memos. You have to give more to your answer as your teachers would have indicated it to you. All right, let's take a next question. Write a short paragraph, all right, in which you explain sustainable solutions that could be used to decrease urban heat islands. Some possible solutions, a higher order question. Taking it further, what can you do to undo this? Now, in the past, that was 6 times 2 equals 12. Now, it's 4 times 2 equals 8. So 4 factors are needed. All right. Let's look at the answer for this one. Okay, where you have to discuss 4 of these factors. Again, examiner's memo, encourage public transport. So you need to take it further. How would you take it further? Not just writing encourage public transport. You encourage public transport being used so that less private vehicles will be on the roads and less sort of exhaust fumes and heat and carbon monoxide or whatever will be given off. Okay, can you see how you take it further? And give another example. Remember, there's many answers to this. That's why we have except other in the bottom. Vehicles using using environmental fuels or friendly fuels, all right? Instead of using your normal petrol, which is leaded. And these fuels give off less emissions, less poisonous gases, which forms your dust dome, etc. So taking it a little further, walking instead of using your car will reduce the amount of combustion of fuel emissions being given off into the air, which causes heat. Same with this one. Instead of writing using bicycles, okay, and leaving it at that, you say using bicycles instead of public transport or your private vehicles will reduce global warming. Industries should use filters on chimneys so it captures these pollutants, carbon monoxide, whatever that is being given off by the industries. These are just a few answers here. All right, obviously there's many other answers that you could use. Once again, I just want to use the marker location on this. For each one, if explained fully, will give you your 2 marks as in the past paragraph questions. All right, 2 marks each, and you need to give 4 provided the explanation is full and you don't look at the marker's memo. Learners, do not take a chance, as we told you in the past. Sometimes you may hear, if you just give a half a statement, you're going to receive 1 mark. Do not take that chance. You give full explanations in order to get full marks. All right, let's go on. The next section being geomorphology. Okay, now, in the past, as it was known as fluvial landforms, fluvial formations and landforms, you understand. Now it's known as geomorphology. Let's look at the old curriculum. The drainage basin and the concepts still here in this section, all right, where we deal with drainage systems in South Africa. Exactly the same concepts, you can see it. We're dealing with catchment areas, watersheds, interfluves, all of them are here. All of these sections are here. Now, what we need to note is that many sections of the old NCS curriculum has now been put into one section under geomorphology. All right, if I go down here, I can look at the source of water supply, the types of rivers, the factors that influence runoff. All these seem to have been separated in the old NCS curriculum. Now, it's all put under one, drainage systems in South Africa. All these under one. You notice all these headings found under one. But it's there. So Doing a past paper on this means just adjusting the mark allocation. You understand? And doing it. But you can comfortably do the questions. It will assist you. All right? When coming to the drainage patterns, also found under the new curriculum under one section, stream discharge and hydrographs. Now, the hydrographs, if you remember clearly, was done in grade 10. It will not be tested in grade 12. So a cross can be put on that. But if there are hydrograph questions in a past paper, please do attempt them, because it will give you a better idea of discharge, stream discharge, runoff. You understand? When it's a flood, what actually happens. It gives you a lovely idea of looking at runoff, how it increases to peak discharge, etc. But it will not be tested in your grade 12 final papers. Nevertheless, please do it. The main emphasis down here will be on discharge of a river, what is it, and the laminar and turbulent flow. That will be your main factors on that. So, in other words, flow hydrographs out, shapes of hydrographs out. Okay, the whole thing on hydrographs will be excluded. Okay? River profiles. Okay, there's quite a few things here when we look at it. River profiles that you covered, the different types of profiles. Then you did drainage channel characteristics. We looked at the relationship between profiles, rejuvenation, reasons for rejuvenation, associated rejuvenation. Then we went on to drainage channel characteristics, where we looked at meandering, braided, and rock control streams, superimposed antecedent streams, and then we looked at river capture and stream piracy. Okay? The concepts of abstraction, features associated with river capture. All these sections are found under one thing known as fluvial processes. So all these things have been there. It has not been excluded, as I've indicated down here. All this is found under fluvial. If you look carefully here, you also look at river profiles, transverse, longitudinal, relationship between the different stages of the river. Remember the upper, middle, lower course. All right? There are alternate terminologies which you can also use: torrent, valley, plain, stage. Okay, your teacher may use different terminologies. Please try and know all the different terminologies so it makes it easier to understand your question. Because it could, we don't know which terminology would be used. The common one is upper, middle, and lower course. Okay, identification and description of fluvial landforms, meanders, oxbow lakes, streams, floodplains, waterfalls, rapids, deltas. All this has been covered in the past. All right, and it's now in the new CAPS curriculum. River grading, all right, maybe a little bit of a different concept of what is river grading. You understand? Okay, but you have covered it. Okay, where the river, the erosion, deposition, etc. is the same. And you've done that in a smooth profile. Okay, rejuvenation, all these concepts once again. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I want to make the fact known that what they've done here is they've wrote rock-controlled features or characteristics or patterns or stream channel patterns. Here we're giving you a little more detail of what is the stream channel patterns. So you've got more detail. It looks longer, but it's actually the same things that have been put there. Where your teacher just said stream channel characteristics and they gave patterns and they gave you the different names. Here it's written for you. So it makes the using of your curriculum when you're studying far more easier. You'll notice here all the different things. Here it may say features. Here it tells you what's the different features that you'll have to study. And eventually we're looking at your superimposed and sediment drainage patterns, which is also in this area. So nothing much has changed between those two. Lastly, I don't know why learners consider this a new section. The only difference is we haven't done that much on catchment and drainage management in the past. It has been done in a little smaller section. Now there is more emphasis on this, including case studies and management strategies dealing in the case studies, specifically on South Africa. You know, this is a huge issue, and we need to save our drainage basins and our catchment areas and our river systems. You understand? Because our water is our problem. So it's quite a significant section that has been put in there. It has been there in the past, but more detail now has been included in this regarding case studies. Remember again, learners, what did I tell you is a case study? It's dealing with a specific area in South Africa where research has been done on that specific area. Topography associated with horizontal rocks. Well, if you look at it here, this section has gone to grade 11. All right, so it's moved to grade 11. It's quite a bit of work, and you would have enjoyed it in grade 11, learners. I enjoy teaching this. It's quite an interesting section. You can identify features when you're finished. Please note, revision of the section will be important because you will be doing map work. Do you understand? And if you look at your map work guidelines, you may be, as indicated on your map work guidelines, identifying stuff. So do your revision on this to be able to identify your features. You understand? Topography associated with inclined, in paper 1, not there. You understand? Topography associated with massive igneous rock, not there. But please revise those sections. You understand? Because work can be taken from the past, okay, especially with your map work sections. All right, all these sections for your theory has been removed to the grade 11 curriculum. Another one, the slope and slope forms, the different elements of the slope. Remember, talus, pediment, etc., which you've done in grade 11. The significance of slope elements, using cross sections to identify slope elements. All right, all this has been taken out, and you would remember done in grade 11. Okay, so it's a huge chunk of your geomorphology that has been removed. All right. Mass movements, okay, and human responses, where you've done all your soil creep, your rock falls, and the impact on people. This whole section on mass movements, you will remember from last year, has been removed to the grade 11 curriculum. Let's look at the sample question on this section. Now please note, learners, that doesn't mean that these sample questions are only for those questions. I tried to create a variety of questions, all right, and show you the different questions and the different changes in the mark allocation. All right, let's look at this question. I took it on a river capture, okay? Similar like the past, this is river A referring to river A, referring to river B. We noticed something has happened here. All right, if you look at it here, the headwaters of this river A is captured by, this is river A, captured by river B. There's the remaining part of the river. I also put in a few points. For instance, you look at this point is the elbow of capture. This river is then known as the Misfit Stream. This river is known as the Captor Stream, and this known as the Wind Gap or the dry gap. You know you've done this already. Okay, similar to past papers. In past papers, you will get these sort of questions. All right, let's look now at some of the answers. All right, first question. Similar like that, you get these scaffolding questions from simple to a little more difficult to a little more difficult. As you get in the past papers, scaffolding questions will be here. Okay, so you still will be having that format. Using a past paper will definitely assist you. Now let's look at this. Define the term river capture. Again, a definition in the past, 2 marks. Now it is 1 mark. Okay, a difference. All right, let's look at the answer. When one river captures the headwaters of another river. Once again, learners, full definition. All right, let's look at the next one. Name features 1, 2, 3, and 4. This, if you were given in the past of naming features, although you are identifying it on the diagram, because it's simple identification, it is no more 2 marks each, it's now 1 mark each. All right, which is 4 times 1, giving you 4 marks. Obviously, when I'm going to show you this, and you look at it down here, each one is worth 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark. No more 2 marks as in the past. All right? Next one, state 3 factors that cause river capture. The operational word here is state. And once you're stating and not explaining, again it changes from 3 times 2, 6 is equal to 3 times 1, 3 marks. All right, and if I look at the answers again, you can see it. We're stating the factors. Gradient, if you see, look at it here, is equal to 1 mark. Volume of water, 1 mark. Resistant rock, 1 mark, which gives you your 3 marks. Now that's another adjustment that you would see. Last one, write a short paragraph in which you explain the environmental impact that the river capture will have on the lower regions of River A. All right? When we looked at River A was the one whose headwaters was captured. So it became a misfit stream. Obviously, you know, as you've studied, there's less water available for that river. You understand the water tables will drop because it becomes a misfit stream. Let's look at some of the answers there. Remember, it's no more 6 times 2, 12. You have to give 4 factors, which is equal to 4 times 2, 8. All right? If we look at here, again, remember, you have to go in more detail, guys. All right. Destroys the natural vegetation. If you look at that one, it's 2 marks. You understand, lack of water or the water table drops, which destroys the natural vegetation, alters the natural plants, needing natural plants that are found in the area here. I'm going to take this off. You understand? It alters it. Now, if there's less rainfall, the plants will change to a type of vegetation that needs less water. Could result in desertification. Again, you'll have to explain it in full, guys. This is a marking memo for the markers because the water tables drop. You understand, less water available, therefore vegetation could die, resulting in desertification. Animals could migrate, animals that are heavily reliant on water, and vegetation, because the vegetation dies, animals don't have food in the area, there's no vegetation, they start to move away. So that could give you your 2 marks, your 2 marks, all right? 2 marks, which could give you 8 marks, and that is the difference. Okay, learners, I've spoken quite a bit. I think you need a small break. Get that glass of water, quick drink, and we'll be back soon. Welcome back, learners. I hope you had a good glass of water, and we go to the second section now. And that is your two, as in the past we call it the human sections, where we look at rural and urban settlements and economic geography. But let's get going with rural and urban settlements. Now again, not much has changed, but I will explain it to you as we go on. Let's look at this, your rural and urban settlements. All right, let's start off. Similar things here also. Your concept of site and situation, your classifications, your factors influencing, all these things from the old curriculum of NCS, still there, okay? Your wet point, dry point settlements, all these factors, all found in this. All right, complexity. It just gives you a little breakdown here in terms of talking about size, complexity, pattern, function. Okay, all found in this section. All right, and it's good to know these concepts here as was tested. If you look at your exam papers, it's good to go over them and you won't go wrong. Just change the mark allocation again. All right, let's look at this section. All right, the first section sort of gave you the different terminology in terms of what you're going to use in rural and urban settlements. Maybe I need to refer to that again. For instance, when you look at factors like site situation, you will use it in both places, rural and urban settlements, and you look at the different site factors as has been done in the past. You're also looking at the differences in what a rural and urban settlement is like. So no problem with regards to that. All is happening here is that the section is now written rural urban settlements, give you a clear idea of what you're doing there. Here it just says classification of settlements. All right. The next one, rural settlements, same. Rural settlements. All right. Factors influencing site and situation, same here. How site and situation affect the location of rural settlements. All right, same. Yeah, we talk about classification or morphology rather. You understand? Yeah, again, in terms of the pattern and the functions, etc. Okay, we talk about nucleated, which also talks about the patterns. So maybe here it's written nucleated and dispersed, which is actually the pattern. Okay, here it talks about the word pattern that comes through here. All right, in this. Okay, where we look at reasons for nucleated and dispersed, reasons here also, classification and reasons. Shapes, same thing, you dealt with linear, circular. There's all the shapes here. It's done in a bit more detail where it tells you the different shapes that are being used. You understand? T-shape, crossroads, etc. All right? So all those things are found from the old curriculum to the new curriculum, and learners doing questions on it. It will be fantastic from any paper ranging from 2008 to 2013. Okay? We look at the next one, human environment interactions. Okay, that's the heading here. Don't be confused. It talks about rural settlement issues. It's both the same thing, just different terminology is being used. Because if you look at it again, learners, once again, you've got rural-urban migration, rural-urban migration. The concept of rural depopulation, okay? And as your teachers told you in the past, rural-urban migration is one aspect of rural depopulation. You're looking at it in this aspect also. And you can use those things because there's similar factors such as mechanization or better educational facilities in the urban area will cause rural-urban migration, reducing the population. It's just that rural urban migration is a movement. Rural depopulation includes a movement and other aspects like birth rate, etc. You understand? Can you see it here? Consequences of rural depopulation is here again. All right. Maybe not mentioned in full, but push and pull factors are significant. Because we say, why do people move out? You have to give full examples or full answers. Remember writing lack of educational facilities where? In the urban area. You understand? Better educational facilities where? In the rural, in the urban area. So poor educational facilities in the rural area, better educational facilities in the urban area. So you have to explain it in full. And the both have the same sort of sections that you need, just phrased differently. Can you see it? Consequences of rural depopulation. Strategies to curb rural depopulation. You understand? Yeah, we look at it here also. How would you curb rural depopulation? You'll notice this word in terms of the case studies. That comes through now. We have case studies in the past, but not necessarily a case study, an article. Here there are specific case studies dealing with specific areas that have been researched, which will come through where you have to address strategies. So different terms. I did not put a cross on Agenda 21, because Agenda 21 is a sort of strategy. Okay, learners? So we can use them in the new curriculum if it's tested on. You will be able to handle it, just that you don't have to know the specifics of Agenda 21, but you can use it as a strategy, or the things that I've mentioned there can be used as strategy. Can you see? Similar again, sustainability related issues, all right? All these things come. Managing rural land. Here we call it under social justice, where you do about land reform, redistribution of land, etc. All these aspects are in both cases. The only thing that has been removed from this section, learners, is the impact of HIV and AIDS, impact of war and refugees. This has been taken out. Okay? Now, the next section, which deals with urban areas, here it's known, we give you different categories of urban concepts. Here it's all found under urban settlements. Okay? If you look at it here, development of urban settlements, the only thing that has come through very heavily here is the origin. Now, obviously, your teachers would have done, or teachers of the past who have taught the past grade 12 learners, would have sort of covered some origin to give them an idea of urban, but it was not necessarily tested on. Now we're saying the origins are part of the testing program also and can come out in the test. All right? And the development of urban settlements is more emphasized, although it may be touched on in the past. So it's more emphasized in this new CAPS curriculum. Otherwise, if you look at it here, the same things, urban settlement functions, all right, site and situation, location, all found on both sides. All right, the types of towns, all right, you'll find it here. So nothing has changed with regard to those aspects. All right, all the different types of towns, all mentioned for you. Okay, let's look at the next section, which talks about urban settlements and urban hierarchies. So urban hierarchy is also covered here, where you look at the concept of the central place theory. As we have the central place there, you look at various other concepts like threshold population, sphere of influence, range of goods, high order, low order services. All seems to be covered here also. Although not mentioned, but threshold population has been done in the old curriculum. You understand? Sphere of influence has been done. Here it's stated more clearly in the new curriculum. But all these things have been sort of covered in the question itself. or in the curriculum itself. The next one, looking at your urban morphology, where we look at all the models, urban structure and patterns, just a new name. All right? I would say, although this has not been sort of mentioned fully here, but doing the patterns gives you a better understanding of the area. And remember, in your map work sections, you may be asked to identify things like that. All right? So knowing it would make a difference because we're dealing with the internal structure. It's stated there. All right? So patterns, street patterns, should be answered, okay, from past papers, should be handled. So it gives you a better idea of the internal structure of this. All right? It says patterns here. Okay. Then we look at the urban settlement as such, urban land use. Can you see it? Urban profiles, also covered here. You understand? Urban profiles are covered here. So sections overlap. All right. I know these things may not be mentioned in detail in the new curriculum, but it gives you a better understanding of the urban area, why certain land uses are in certain areas, compatibility. You understand? With similar functions are located in similar areas. So yes, it's of use to you. All right, to try and answer those questions. Maybe not mentioned so much in this one here. All right, land use models. All these models are put in. We have covered in the past, sometime your South African city or your third world city, your teachers were, but it was not necessarily tested to a great extent. Here we're saying we are covering it. So these little areas down here, you understand, the American city, third world city, South African city, and models based on those things, or what was the emphasis of their formation, now becomes so-called a new section. But yet it could have been covered, but now we're saying these sections will be tested. All right, they are being tested. Okay, you can get tested on it because it's stating it clearly in the curriculum. All right, let's look at the next section. Human environmental interactions. Okay, here we call it that. Here we call it urban settlement issues. Just a different heading. But if you look at the same things, urban settlements and inner problems, recent urbanization, issues related to rapid urbanization. That could be your problems. Here it just states problems and gives you a few things like urban blight, etc. Here it gives you more specific. Housing shortage, overcrowding, traffic congestion, problems with service provision. Okay, all those things come in more clear here. It states the factors that you must look at, but all is found in the old curriculum also. Using past papers on that will assist you. All right. Agenda 21, I've left it here. Okay, the specifics of Agenda 21 will not be tested, but it is a sustainable strategy and you can draw ideas from that. You understand, although it's not specifically tested as Agenda 21. Okay? Of course, inner city renewal also covered under strategies to improve the urban area. All right? We're looking here again, if you look at problems of the informal sector, or case studies to show selected areas, challenges and handling environmental, economic and social justice and injustice concerns. As in the past, he had stated clearly, remember even in grade 11, your educator told you, please, those three factors are there. And paragraph questions or many of the explanation questions deal with This geography is based on this, especially the human section, on social, environmental, and economic injustices. Here we're making a statement, but it has been done in the past. Okay? Just a review on this. New, it's considered recent urbanization patterns in South Africa. We have done it in general in the past. Now we're specific with South Africa. Case studies that show selected areas in South Africa and are managing and handling urban challenges. So case studies specific to South Africa, not to the whole world in general. Environmental, economic, and social justice concerns. Maybe it's regarded as new because we're stating it in the curriculum. But we have dealt with these things before, even in the old curriculum and in grade 11 and 10. Okay, added packages, okay, which has added some more detail. Urban settlement issues such as urban issues related to lack of planning, housing shortages. We do it in more depth than we've done it in the past. In the past, we just went through it briefly. We look more into depth in issues like overcrowding, you understand, congestion, problems with service delivery, done in more detail. And you'll find the teachers will be handling this in more detail. The growth of the informal sector, which is playing a significant part in our economy, will be handled in more detail with case studies, etc. You will come across this in the next section also, but it can be related. Remember, rural and urban settlements and economic geography have quite a few overlaps. So studying the sections that are related together makes a lot of sense. And you'll get questions that can be related to both sections. All right? Let's look at a sample. I put a little simple question for you down here. All right? Now, it was those matching questions, okay, where we had to choose a term from column B that matches the description in column A. All right? Of course, same like in the past, you write the letter next to the number or the correct letter next to the number. Let's look at one like this. All right? The exact piece of land on which the settlement is situated, exact piece of land, as you know, you've been studying this already and you should have covered this, and that is site, okay, 1 mark. In the past, it was 5 times 2, 10. Here it is 1 mark. You could get a 7 or 8 mark question on this, and the answer would, or the total if you get, would be 1 mark for each one. All right, let's look at the next one. The settlement location in relation to the surrounding area. You know that is situation. So that is there and that is there. Is a site factor, which is the factor for them choosing to have their farm on that exact piece of land. Obviously that is fertile soil, and that's another mark. Is a situation factor, all right? You must know that you look at situation in relation to the surrounding areas, as road networks, market is available. So that would be accessibility to the market. Refers to the pattern of a settlement. Pattern refers to dispersed or nucleated, and that's that. You understand? Refers to the shape of a settlement, whether it's round, you understand, whether it's linear, whether it's T-shaped, and obviously that is that. Refers to the function of a settlement. Obviously that answer will be there. It's a central place town. It serves the surrounding area. That is a function. And that all these answers, learners, will just give you a mark each, which will give you a total, and I'm sure you're going to get total, which will give you a total of 7 marks. Okay, that's another change that has happened in terms of your matching questions. All right, let's get to the economic geography. When we look at this section, a lot of overlaps again. Let's take the first one. It's a structure of the economy, similar. structure of the economy. All right. And there you look at your different sectors or economic activities, your primary, secondary, you understand, tertiary, quaternary, all is found in this. You understand? The economic contribution to South Africa, it takes this and puts it in more detail. All right? Because you want to look at how it contributes to South Africa, what percentages, etc., that the primary, secondary, tertiary. We're classifying South Africa, developing, etc. But your teachers will talk more about that later. All right, use of the graphical information, nothing new. You had to use graphs, statistics to determine different primary contributions. You understand? You looked at things like employment, but it was done under these sections. What the new curriculum has done now is it's put it down that these things you need to focus on. Okay, old curriculum just gave the broad categories, but you have to do the work underneath those categories. All right, next section. Agriculture, next section, agriculture. You understand? Looking at the agricultural systems in South Africa, the contribution, factors favoring, factors hindering. You understand? All right? All these things have come in, okay, into this one. Factors favoring would be the sort of the area that slopes. You understand, the new technology, the farming. There's various aspects that you could talk about, which will be discussed, and we will do programs on that later. You understand? Issues that have come through, food security will be covered here and also covered in more detail later. This little one, the role of small scale and large scale farmers. Your teachers will be spending some time on that, because it's new terminology. It's not something new that's happening in South Africa, but new terminology that is being used, and they will go through this. This you can consider new, all right, to a certain extent, all right? And that is slightly different from there, because basically in the past you've just done commercial and subsistence farmers. But here you're going to be doing that. All right, products being grown, something new, all right? I'm just maybe go through this first. You'll notice that all these related concepts about food, environmental factors, you understand, social economic justice, okay, all these factors will be in land factors, measures to prevent insecurity, etc. All these factors are in. Let's look at the last category here, new. As I told you, the role of small scale and large scale farmers. New in this one is the main products produced, home market for people that are using it here and for the export market. The content that has been repackaged and added with detail is the contribution of agriculture to the South African economy. More we spoke about the general contributions, etc., and we touched on South Africa. Here we're making an emphasis that we're going to have more of our assessments based on our country, you understand, than in general. All right, the role of small and large scale farmers, a whole section, the importance that they play there. The main products, I think we're repeating ourselves there. Okay, factors that favor and hinder agriculture, such as climate, soil, ownership, trade. Okay, we're adding on, you understand, to the factors hindering, not just subsistence farming, etc., but we're adding on to those factors. Okay, the importance of food security, which has been covered here, but done in more detail. And of course, case studies, you understand, specific to South African situations are being covered, not just general articles. Note, trade and transport now will be found across. We're not just looking at trade and transport under tertiary activities, but we're looking at the contribution or the significance of trade and transport in primary activities such as agriculture and mining, and in secondary activities and in tertiary. So it's going to be split across, and the use of case studies will be added to all these topics. All right, so we won't just have it under tertiary activities. Next section, mining. All right, same there. The contributions, the importance, the factors favoring, hindering, all is here. All right, contribution made, all is in this section. But mining new, contribution of mining to the South African economy, which has been touched on in the past, but it goes into more depth. All right, significance of mining to the development of South Africa, factors favoring and hindering mining in South Africa. Again, it's classified as new, but it's not totally new. It has been covered. Okay, here, a case study of one of South Africa's main minerals in relation to the above points of contribution, significance, factors favoring, hindering, you understand, will be covered. All right? I don't know how this one little one creeped in. We can just strike it off because it comes in as agriculture. You know, gremlins always tend to creep into our work. But case studies, please note, learners, it doesn't specify a specific mineral, but one mineral that you can do. Next section, industry. Here it's known as secondary and tertiary activity. Here it's known as industry. All right? Your factors here, all the incentives and all these SDIs and IDZs, you understand, come into contribution here. Maybe it's not mentioned totally, but it will definitely come across in the later sections as we look at it here. So it's covered there. Can you see the contribution by the primary and secondary tertiary activities? We're looking at the different types of industries. Okay, down here, the types of industries there. Okay, factors influencing industrial development. Maybe here it's given you the human and physical factors, but here it's all into one section. Okay, all is there, learners. You just have to do past papers and it will be fine. Okay, South Africa's industrial regions, okay, covered before, covered here. All of them are here. All right, you can see it here, all covered in that same sections that was there in the old curriculum and now in the new curriculum. But another point to note is specific South African case studies, okay, that you will do and you can be tested on. And your books, your textbooks, and there's various resources that your teachers will use and you will use, have these important case studies. All right? Legacy of apartheid, although covered here, is maybe not reflected here, but it's covered under the strategies for industrial development. Okay? So let's go further. Can you see all these areas here? All are found there. Okay? Let's go further. Problems, I'm talking, this is part of the old curriculum. Can you see all here? All will be found in that section. All right? Can you see the strategies for industrial development? Apartheid, post-apartheid, which could have been found in the first section, is now being found here, but it still can be tested on. So past papers will work. All right? And you notice that here we covered, if I go to the past one, we spoke about the IDZs, etc., all in this area here. You understand? All is found in strategies. Can you see the IDZs, the SDIs, the issues relating to this? But again, case studies of SDIs are being emphasized on. In the past, you basically looked at what's an SDI, etc. Now you're going to do case studies related to that, case studies related to industrial centralization, decentralization, etc. So all these things will be covered right through with the injustices, the different policies, all right? All that will be covered. Now, one thing you will note that these sections can be related to issues associated with industrial centralization and decentralization, factors favoring industrial development in South Africa. So your industrial decentralization, which is shown in the past and the present, will not just be done as concepts, but will be related to South African situations. So take your studies further, related to those sections, so that, or related to South African examples, so that it makes your studying more meaningful and you'll be able to approach the different questions in assessments or in exams. And it also makes it easier to understand because you can identify these factors with South African situations. I got here, do grade 11 papers, because some of this is covered in terms of your understanding of trade. Because if you look at your issues down here, you'll find generally trade, the concept of trade, is out of the new one. Can you see it here? This section is out, all right, with regards to trade. You're not being tested on that. But trade plays an important part in terms of our tertiary, etc. So what I'm saying is to go over it, because it will assist you in terms of your understanding of other aspects. All right, we talk about the role of transport, etc. Remember, I said to you, the role of transport will be covered in all sections now, not just transport on its own, because transport plays a part in every section, not only as a separate entity. You need transport in mining, transport in agriculture. So all sections tend to have it. Then informal sector, a little more emphasis on this section in caps now, although it has been covered in the old NCS curriculum, but we haven't done it in so much detail. Here, it's stipulated clearly. All right, and all these things have been covered in your new curriculum. But you'll see here, it gives you more specifics, concept, characteristics of informal sector employment, reasons for high informal sector employment in South Africa, challenges facing, all here, case studies of South African situations make it a little different from the old curriculum, all right, where you have to look at situations here. They are, as I say, in your textbooks, etc. Explore them, take your information, apply them to those cases in order to make your understanding. So everywhere you're noticing, learners, that South African case studies, South African case studies, South African case studies, and there's a lot of them in your text, on the internet, wherever you look for source materials, you will find them. All right, globalization, quite an interesting section, and you will remember it. You did it last year. So this little section is removed to grade 11. I shouldn't call it a little section. It's quite a bit of work there, but it has been removed to grade 11. Water resource has been moved to grade 10. Okay, let's look now at an example. I put in a little case study here. This article and picture below, an answer, refer to this and answer it. The informal sector in the Eastern Cape, a case study of the New Brighton and Kamakazaki in Port Elizabeth. All right, can you see it's specific in these areas? All right, Kamakazaki, I do apologize for my pronunciation. I always have a problem sort of use certain words, but I apologize if I pronounce it incorrectly. Let's look at the thing here. The informal sector has grown in South Africa specific to South Africa, due to poverty. So immediately we're picking up nothing out of this world. Poverty has caused more of an informal sector and rising unemployment. No jobs for people. These problems have worsened in the Port Elizabeth area. Learners, same thing about it. Generally, other places also will have poverty and unemployment. You understand? But we're just specifically making it to an area in South Africa. So nothing out of the ordinary. You understand? In this Port Elizabeth economy, as most entrepreneurs have scaled down their operations or liquidated, means they cut down production or they close down totally. So the people have no jobs. All right, due to structural decline in manufacturing sector, manufacturing is not in demand, whatever. All right, periodic recessions. All right, we have problems with economic decline, there's a recession, people are not buying, there's no customers, no production. In the national economy, it's being related to national economy, but still emphasizing on Port Elizabeth. So there's a big recession problem. The informal sector has become a reasonable economic alternative. People need to look for a job. So what do? They go and start and get involved in the informal sector of selling their stuff. All right? Remember, informal sector here, not informal settlement. All right? So as far as income accumulation and employment generation, when we talk about income accumulation, a bit of an advanced word, but to get an income, you understand, to get employment, they have gone to the informal sector. The informal sector is characterized by self-employment. People make their own jobs there. They employ themselves. They're the bosses of their jobs. All right. And also the income from this sector has also improved the standard of living. It may not be high, but where they were unemployed, they now got a job, and they actually improve their living. They can buy things for themselves. Even, of course, the basic necessities such as food and clothing, etc. All right. Living of some households in New Brighton and Kwasaki. I apologize again. I'm generally good at this, but this word is giving me a little bit of a problem. All right, my apologies, learners. All right, education levels in this sector are relatively low. Okay, a problem with this, not high level of education. Doesn't mean they don't have ability. It's just that they didn't have the opportunity of education. And the informal sector is characterized by one-man businesses with few employees who are also family members. So it's just one-man business in most cases. Some places where it's doing a bit better, it may employ one or two other people. But it doesn't employ a lot of people like the formal sector does. Okay? And the informal sector alleviates conditions of poverty. It helps reduce poverty because people are working. All right, I put a little picture here to show you the guy selling mangoes, all right, and the customer buying it from him. It's informal. He's selling on the street. He's got a little job. You understand? He could maybe done many things, but opportunities did not allow it for him to do that. Okay, let's look at some of the questions, sample questions. Can you see again? Scaffolding, same. Define no more 2 marks. You understand? Define 1 mark. Okay, it's a case study, same as the past, mark distribution is different. All right, in the past it was an article, now it's specific to a certain area in South Africa. All right, you know case study. All right, and the definition of an informal sector, remember these are concepts. It can be phrased differently. I've chose one here in the section of economy that is not taxed. Okay? 4.2, and of course this is 1 mark. Let me get my little tick there. 4.2, state 3 factors that could result in the increase of the informal sector in Port Elizabeth mentioned in the article. Once again, you have to get your sort of reasons or factors from the article. I've chosen, and remember, state 3 factors. Again, it's 1 mark each. All right? It's 1 mark each. Okay, I've got it from the article. Poverty. Let me get my little pen here. Poverty, rising unemployment, lower levels of education. I'm going to show this to you. All right, poverty, rising unemployment, and I'm going to go here. Education levels in this sector are relatively low. So taking from the article, it is an application question, but it's a simple application question. In the past, you had 2 marks for it. Now you get 1 mark for it. Okay? All right? 4.3, explain 2 economic benefits of the informal sector. The word, operational word, is explain. All right? So when you're explaining, you're giving more detail. And as in the past and now, it is 4 marks. All right? Same, 4 marks, because you are explaining. So some mark allocations is similar. All right? It improves people's quality of life. It reduces the crime. You use the article also to get the answers. You understand? Because the standard of living comes in. There could be other answers. The quality of life. All right? 2 marks. Of course, you put it in better, in more answers. This is the examiner's answers or the marker's answers for them to quickly mark through. You say it improves the quality of life because it creates employment, and by that way they'll be earning money, you understand, and therefore be able to buy more things. It reduces crime, 2 marks. But again here, learners, you will state it reduces crime. How? Because people are now employed, and many people are resorting to crime out of need and not out of want, if you realize it in South Africa. Many people are doing that. Question 4.4, same thing, evaluate. You evaluating. So therefore, 2 times 2. Evaluate the impact that the informal sector will have on the formal sector of this, of Port Elizabeth. So we're looking at 2 places, informal and formal. All right? So we're taking it further, evaluating definitely 2 marks. It will have a negative impact. All right. Okay, formal sector will lose business as the informal don't pay tax. Let's take this little dot off, and can charge cheaper rates, so they don't make much money. Okay, businesses in the formal sector could close down because there's no business, so it affects it negatively. And each time it's 2 marks. So what did you notice, learners? Nothing great has changed. The mark allocation has changed. So therefore, don't assume it's a shorter paper. You understand? It has still maybe the same time, your 70 marks. Secondly, case studies of specific South African situations need to be done by you. Okay, there are a few additions that has come through. There's sections that have been left out, but please, learners, you need to go over them if they are related to the new curriculum. So it gives you a better understanding of these sections. Right, this is actually in a nutshell the old, the new, and the changes. Please, learners, get down, do your case studies, do your application exercises. You have the capability of getting top marks. Once again, I do want to apologize about that little word. I'm going home now to practice it. I'm not happy. So when I start the next session, whether it's a live show or what, I'm going to make sure I pronounce that word correctly. All the best, learners. And remember, study hard. Geography is fantastic, and we simply love it. See you.